Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Dmitry, and today we continue our talk about Angular schematics. My internal YouTube statistics shows that you liked my previous video where we were implementing ng-add schematic. So this is the schematic that is being executed when we add some certain library to the project, to the Angular project via ng-add command. And I saw high activity under this video, so I decided to continue, and in this video I will show you how to create another schematic that allows you to generate some custom component. Let's say the component with already injected some service. So this is what we're going to implement in this video. So I would suggest you to get started right now. All right, first of all, let's quickly recap what we have done in the previous video. If you forgot, if you have not seen it, please check this out first one more time, because it most probably you will not really understand what is going on here. But for those who have seen it, let's quickly walk through. So we created an Angular workspace, and we created some empty Angular library using these two awesome commands, and then we created a schematics folder in the root of the library. Don't be confused, not the root of the workspace, root of the library. There we created schematics folder, and there inside we created a collection JSON file where we describe the list of supported schematics, and there is only one so far. It is ng-add. This is the schematic that is being activated when we add our library to the project using ng-add command. And what is happening here, once we add this library to the project, Angular CLI looks for the factory key within this collection JSON file, and then it tells that our schematic, the script that has to be executed, located under the ng-add folder right there, and inside the index.tl or JS file there is a ng-add function that will be kind of called in order to create our schematics. And we indeed have this index.ts file, and there inside we have our factory function ng-add that will be called, and this whole thing will happen, and in the end we will update our app module.ts file, and we will set up our library. We add to the imports array our library module, and everything will be working fine. And we deploy our, or better to say, we publish our library to the local npm registry. For that I'm using Ferdaccio, and you can see that I'm running it locally right here. So let's switch to the terminal. And this is basically it. So now I hope we recalled everything, and there are no questions of what is going on there. As I said in the intro, in this video we're going to create another schematics that will be generating some custom component. This component should have already injected in the constructor the service that comes from our super UI library. And yeah, let's get started, and let's get started from the collection JSON file. We are going to introduce a new schematics right there, and I will name this schematic like super UI component. There I should describe also what this schematic is going to do, so we need a description. So I'm gonna say this schematic generates super component, like that. Awesome. The next property we have to add is Obviously factory. So factory is going to be located under the super UI component folder, and there will be index file, and we're gonna trigger the function that I'm going to name super UI component generator. Here we go. And now, because our new schematic will be getting some options, like we're going to provide the name for the component, right? We're going to provide a path where should be created this component. So we didn't have this for ng-add schematic, but here we need it, and in order to achieve this, we have to describe the schema for the schematic, describe the options that we're going to get from the user input when they will type ng generate blah 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 super UI component and so on. So that's why we have to introduce a new property called schema, and definitely we have to provide a path to this file, and it's going to be also under this super UI component folder, and I call it schema, and it is JSON file. Here we go. And let's maybe add some fancy stuff, why not? And I would suggest you to provide some shortcut. As example, if you use ngCli, you know that instead of writing ng generate component and so on, you can just type ng g c for component and then some name, whatever you like. So we will do the similar thing for this schematic as well, and there is the property for that. It is called aliases, and there inside the array we can define some shortcuts. In my case it will be let's use first letters from here, from here, from here, so it will be suk, yeah, suk or sak, doesn't matter. All right, I think it would be enough. So we have everything. And now let's create appropriate files and folders. So let's start with the factory. I'm going to create a new folder called super UI component. Then we will create a new file. It is going to be index.ts, and also, let's close it. And also we have to create a schema, right? So let's create it also next to index.ts file, schema JSON. In this file you should add content like that. All right, and here for the schema key we have to provide this string. For ID we should provide some ID. In my case it's going to be a super UI component, and also I need some title for the schema. Let's say it is a super UI library component schema. Here we go. Then we say that it's going to be a type of object, and as every object it has properties, and here we describe already properties that we are going to provide. So those are flags that we are providing when we do if you know ng generate component, then my component, and then we provide some module and then many other options. So those are these properties basically. All right, so let's add a few of them. I would suggest you to have a name in order to provide the name of the component, right? So it's going to be name. Then we also have to provide a description that explains what this property is responsible for. In our case it is the name of the component, and then we should define the type of this property, and the type of this property I would say it is a string. Cool. For now I would say it is enough. We can go forward and introduce a new property, and it's going to be the path. So means where in our file system we should create this component, right? And I would say that, okay, yeah, let's add the description, of course. So where should be created the file? Okay, and then we have to define also the type. The type is going to be string as well. Then we have to format it and format it to the path. So it will be the proper path for to the folder. And let's add also some fancy stuff, and namely xprompt. It's when you run the schematic, it will stop the execution and it will ask you to type some value before the execution will continue. You will see it in action, no worries. But so far, let's say xprompt, and we have to provide the message that should be displayed right above the input field. So we can actually copy this message and just add question mark. And the last property is, let's say, it's a default. So we can provide some default value, right? Why not? So the default value can be source app. So let it be there. And I think we are pretty much done. So I can save it. So these properties will be passed to our factory function, and I would suggest you, before we start to use these options, we have to create some interface and describe those options. So we have strict types, IntelliSense, and all these fancy things that TypeScript give us. So I will create a new file, call it supercomponent.ts, and here I'm going to export interface super UI component schema, like that. And we have two properties there, name that is string, and we also have a path that is also string. That's it. So now we can continue and write our factory function. How did I name this factory function? It's going to be super UI component generator. All right, so export function super UI generator, and it's going to return another function. All right, so if you remember, we got here the tree and schematic context parameters, right? But we don't need for this particular case those stuff, so I leave it blank. If you want to check what is actually taking this function, you can check it right there. So, but I will close it. We're going to return the rule, and rule comes, okay, autocomplete doesn't work. I think I can fix it. No, it doesn't work. I could fix it if I install npm install Angular dev kit schematics and save it as a dev dependency. I think it works because Angular dev kit is dependency for some another dependency, so it was installed, but we have to explicitly install it in order to have this autocomplete. I think someone left the comment under the first video. He was complaining to something similar. I believe his issue was caused by those stuff. All right, now we can see the IntelliSense, and I can use it and add automatically the rule, the import, and import the rule from devkit schematics. Cool. Then options, yeah, options that we provide here, we can get the access to them as an argument for our factory function. So they will come there. And how did I call it? Super UI component schema. Okay, let's import it. Very, very good start. And let's write the logic for our factory function. And here the interesting things are coming. So I'm going to introduce a new constant. And what should we add to this constant? If you remember, in the previous video we created the file, and there then we did what? We added import to the module, things like that. But in our case, we are going to create the whole component. Yeah, we want to add a lot of stuff, and it would be difficult to write this everything, to write all those stuff. So it would be really cool if we could use some template for that, right? And Angular Schematics allows us to do this. So we can create template files and replace just some, some stuff with variables, with the options that we getting from the user input. And let's create such a file. I'm going to create it in this Super UI component folder. So I will name it files, and here I have to create a new file, but please pay attention on the naming, how we have to name it. It starts with 2 underscores, then we have to say name, and this name should match the name of the property that we're going to provide, that we described in our schema, right? So this name will be replaced with the actual value that user will provide to us. Then you have to use @sign, and after @sign you define the method that will be applied to the name, and that will take the string and dasherize this. Means that if you get the name in the camel case, it will be replaced to the dashed version. And how you can do this? You can write dasherize and 2 times underscore again. About these functions like dasherize, we will talk in few minutes. I will show you how you apply them to the template, where they come from, but so far, it should be like that. Then after that we press dot and then component .ts and then .template. This is the file we have to create. Inside this template we should provide some code, right? So I will take some regular components from here. So I just copy it and paste. Then I would add a new import. And namely, I'm going to import the Super UI library service. And it comes from Super UI library. All right, so I will remove styles and we have to adjust naming. And here we will use again this dasherize and classify function helpers. Namely, we're going to replace the selector first, and here we're going to use the next construction, so like that. Then 2 times %, and then it should be equal sign, and here we should provide some value like name, but we don't know what kind of format will be there, if it's camel case or something else. So to be sure that it will be dasherize, we're going to apply this dasherize function, and I will do it like that. Dasherize, and is a function, so we have to do it like that. Cool. Then we go to the template and we have to replace this string as well. So I will reuse this part and replace this hard-coded stuff. And maybe let's make it in one line to save some space. And here we have to also replace this sub-UI lib prefix with something dynamic. So we will replace it with a name as well, but we want to use camel case there, right? And there is another helper function called classify, like that. Cool. And then, as I said in the very beginning, we have to automatically inject the super UI lib service. So we will do it right here. So it's going to be private super UI service, and it is super UI lib service instance. Cool. We are done with the template. I hope we forgot nothing, so I can save it. And then we have to use this template somehow inside our factory function. So I'm going to close it. And yeah, I introduced the constant, and I'm going to name it, well, template source. And to this file, to this template we just created, we have to apply our options. We have to apply our functions that we are using right here, right? And in order to do this, we have to use the helper function called apply. And it comes from also DevKit's schematics. And this function takes a couple of arguments. It takes source and array of rules, and the source, it is basically our template. To create this source, we also have a helper function called URL that also comes from schematics, and this URL takes the string that leads to our files, and the second parameter, it is an array of rules. What kind of rules? We'll see in a second. So the first rule, we have to, as I said, apply all options, all functions to this template, and there is a special helper function, apply templates, and this function takes an object where it provides options and functions. So we have to provide basically classify function, dasherize function, and we have to provide the variable name. So here I say that for classify we should provide some function, and there is such a function already created. We just have to import it from the DevKit core. It lives, as I said, inside the core, and there is an object called strings, and inside the strings we have classify method. You can see there are a lot of them: decamelize, format to underscore format, camelize, capitalize, and use whatever you like. But for my particular case, classify is the proper option. Then we have to provide dasherize function. So for dasherize, I will grab it here. Make sure that this function should match the object key. So keep in mind that. And also from strings, I have dasherize function as well. And what is remaining else? There is remaining name variable, and we will also provide it right here, and it comes from our option or better, let's say it is options, yeah. Options and name. Here we go, that's it. So this rule, as I said, will apply all those stuff to our template. And then once we have everything applied, what we have to do, we have to move this into the proper destination, because we have also the path property, right? In order to do this, we have also dedicated function that is called move, and it also comes from the schematics, and as argument it takes the string where eventually our file should be created, right? And let's provide such a string. So we will use the option path, right? And then if you remember that Angular CLI by default, they create separate folder with the component name and put all the files inside that folder, so we can create such a folder as well. So I will again use dasherize function from strings, and there I will provide the options name. And basically it looks okay, but there is a small issue, because if you work on the Windows, this path will be probably not relevant, because on Windows you have to use / like that. So we can normalize it, we can adjust it, and there is a function for it called normalize, and this function comes from a dev-kit core as well. So I will import it right there, make sure that it is being imported from the dev-kit core, and it is a function, so we have to wrap our string like that, and here we go. Our template source is ready. Now we have to return only something from our factory function, right? So let me make it smaller. What we are going to return, and we're going to return such a thing called chain, like that. And this chain takes an array as an argument, and it returns actually, it takes rules, multiple rules that needs to be applied in this chain, and return the one or the kind of merged rule, so to say. And I did it intentionally. I will show you later why we would need the chain. But so far, let's use only one rule, and it's called merge with. And it takes as an argument, as you can see, expect the source, and we have this source actually. So this is this one, I provide it, and we are pretty much done. Yeah, we can actually save it, and we could try to build our schematic and publish our library and check if this very basic implementation is working. So I just make sure that I saved everything, and we have to increment the library version from our package.json file. So I'm gonna say that it's going to be version 4. And now we have to build the library. So I'm going to build the library itself first. And then, if you remember, we have to build separately the schematic itself, because we have TypeScript files, we have to compile this everything and move appropriate files. And by the way, we have to also adjust this post-build script. That it's good that I opened this package file, because I forgot to adjust this. We have to actually add the following lines. So we also have to grab all schemas that we created right here, and also we have to grab all files, means all our templates, and we should also copy it to the dist folder of our library, so we have to publish it as well. So this is very important step. So I can save this part, and yeah, as I said, we build the library first. Now we have to build the schematic, and I'm going to run also npm build command, but with this prefix I say that run the build command for the package.json that lives in the library root, not in the root of the workspace itself. So such a way we're going to build the schematic. You can see that files were copied successfully. We have to find it there as well. So there is our super UI component files. Everything looks pretty well. So we are ready to publish it. So I'm going to navigate to dist and then super UI library, and I'm doing to npm publish. Here we go. My new version has been added to the local npm registry, and now I can go to the project I just created. This is just simple Angular application I created with ng-new command, and now let's try to type ng add super UI library, and I define the registry where I have to pull this library because I'm using Verdaccio locally, and I have to provide this parameter to say that please pull this library from the local npm registry. Cool. So I'm running this command, and you can see that ng-add schematic has been like hooked, right? So I say that yes, I want to execute ng-add schematic, and you can see it in action. So it updates my app module ts file. You can see it was added right there. So this is ng-add schematic in action, and now we want to run our new one. And how we do this, we type ng generate, and then we have to provide the name of the library. So it's a super UI lib, and after column we have to say which exactly schematic has to be involved. And we named our schematic like super UI component, like that. And we have to provide some name. Yeah, this is the name we described in our schema right here. This is this parameter, and I will call it decoded frontend. All right, cool. And now I can run this command, and now you can see this where should be created the file. So this is exactly this xprompt property in action. So it, and also you can see that default value has been highlighted right here. So we can leave it as it is, or you can provide some string like super components, like that. And now I press enter, and my schematic has been executed. You can see that my super component has been created, and let's have a look what is inside. And ta-da! We have the component with a proper selector, with the super UI service injected. Everything looks really super cool. However, let's do one more step further. What the problem currently? The problem currently is that oh, it was created in the wrong. All right, I had to type source app and then super component, so it was created in the root of the source folder. But okay, it doesn't matter. The problem is that we created just a component, but component usually consists from template, it consists from styles, it consists from unit tests. So usually we have 4 files for one single component. And should we create them from from scratch? Should we create other files separately for every for styles, for component view, and so on? We could do this, but why, if we can reuse already existing schematic that does exactly what we need. So let's reuse the schematic that default for Angular. And if you want to do that in this chain of rules, we have to introduce the new rule. And there is a function for that called external schematic. And it is a function that takes two arguments. The first one is a string which exactly schematic should be taken, and it is schematics Angular. Then we have to say that which exactly schematic name should be taken, and we say that in our case it is a component, right? So we should reuse component generator basically, right? And the third option is options that are provided from the user. So basically this is those options. So I can copy them and provide it. That's it. The only remaining thing is here, when we merge together those two rules, we have to define how it should be merged, some merge strategy. And there is such a merge strategy, and we say that we would use override strategy. You can check, there are few of them. You can read about them more, but to be honest, I don't know all of them. I know just few of them, like override. This is what I'm going to use. So it says that if there will be conflict, if we are trying to create two same files, and there will be overlap because we are creating a component file, and schematics Angular component will create also the file, but we want to override this file with our component. All right, so that's why we have to use this merge strategy, and keep in mind it is not merging the content itself, it's overriding of the file. And this is pretty much it. I will save it, and then I will navigate to the project root, and I have to build only schematics, I believe. No, I have to also increase the package version, so it's going to be version 005. So I'm saving it, then I build the library, then I'm going to build the schematics itself, and now I go to the dist super UI and run npm publish. One more time. The 5th version has been added, deployed, and now let's maybe revert all those stuff. We can also clean it up and install our library. So we will do everything from the very beginning. And then I'm going to add this library using ng-add. Here we go. And now I'm going to create another super UI component, again with the name decoded frontend. I press enter. Then let's type this time proper path name. So it's going to be source app super components. And you can see that we created 4 files. Also this Angular schematic, default schematic, updated app module for us, and it has added our component right here. It created, besides the component itself, it created for us the styles file. It created the HTML file for the view, spec files, and also if we have a look at the component, you can see that there we have the component that we defined in our template file. You can see that service has been injected, like everything as we wanted to have, but additionally we got those additional files from the default Angular schematic. Yeah, it is just so cool. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something new today, something what you can already apply in your daily work. And if it's so, please share this video with your colleagues and friends, use your social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. Don't forget to drop your comments as well, because I would like to know your opinion about schematics, about all my videos. Maybe you have some suggestions. Drop everything right there. I read every comment and try to answer when I have time. Besides that, don't forget that I have some video courses. You can check them out following this link, and it is a great option to support my channel, and in return I promise you some cool knowledge that can help you to stand out among your colleagues. And this is everything I wanted to mention. I wish you a productive week ahead, stay safe, and see you in the next video.